All right, here we are, another episode of the Faith and Life podcast. My name is Mike Weaver, pastor at St. Luke Lutheran Church in Gahanna, Ohio. And as always, in this
Craig Osborne.
conversation, there
I'm
he
the
is.
student pastor here at St. Luke Lutheran Church in Gahanna, Ohio.
Yeah, and I feel like we should have like balloons
Woo! Party
and
shirt. You didn't bring your party hat
party.
or your tuxedo t-shirt?
I did not. I did not today, but it
But
is the 100th
if people
episode.
are listening online, they don't know that. So if you're listening online, we have our tuxedo t-shirts, we got party hats.
Yeah, I mean, there's a clown behind me,
Yeah.
and there's acrobats waiting in the wings, just way to do tumbles.
Yeah,
And
because we've been teasing it for a while,
yeah.
leading up to the build-up. But this is our 100th episode of the Faith and Life podcast.
Man, that's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
That is a lot of episodes.
And the fact that people still listen.
Yeah, exactly. If
Because
this is your first
I've looked at the
episode,
stats. Like people do listen still. So otherwise we probably wouldn't have gone to 100 episodes if they weren't.
right. Absolutely. Yeah. And if this is your first episode, go back and listen to the 100
Yeah,
episodes.
like don't even start here. Like you have
Yeah,
to catch up or you will miss out on every inside joke, every no.
exactly.
Welcome and you can hop along for the ride here.
I mean, we've covered a lot of ground in this
Yeah.
100 episodes from interviewing people from the church or authors, musicians. We've talked about politics. We've talked about Christians in politics. Um, we've had debriefs after conferences.
We talked about why we do certain religious activities or practices in the church and
Yep. Yep.
um just a wide variety. And so like and we in some of those topics will as we continue to go forward with this podcast, I imagine we'll still re-hit those topics and kind of get new perspective because if I we started this back in 2002
No, not
22 I'm not 2000. I do that so often these days.
2022. Yeah. Yeah.
22, yeah.
2022.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, we didn't know each other in 2002.
No, we did not. I wasn't in Columbus in 2002.
No,
Uh,
I was in now high school.
but yeah, I mean, so yeah, we even covered topics from India. We had a couple groups from India
Mhm.
that we've chimed in and about our experiences when we've been there, groups that have been there. So
Yeah,
yeah,
we've had Teeny from over in Germany.
yep.
So, and we had my sister-in-law who's in the UK. Uh,
Hmm.
so yeah, we've covered a lot of stuff. And it's been interesting to see kind of the transition of the podcast from where it started of it was interviewing a church member and then like you and I would do an episode, then interview a church member, and then it kind of shifted into more of just you and I having discussions on faith and life all the time, and then every once in a while we'll bring in an author or somebody more equipped to talk about whatever topic we're talking about.
Yep, and that might still happen. I mean, there's a couple books that we've read that I think, I mean, as I read, I thought, oh, this would be a person that we should bring on for a conversation around this topic.
I mean, if you listen to episode 99 before this, you brought the book up of the
Yeah.
after party dealing with Christians and politics and how that goes. And I had not read it yet. I'm at like three-fourths of the way done now, and in that week, it's good. And I like that's one I'm like, oh, we got to
Yeah.
reach out to them and someone from that group and
Yep.
have them
Yep.
on.
So more to come. Keep listening, everybody. And today we're going to talk about consistency because that's the undergirding to all this. Like, how do you get to 100? You just be consistent in something. And that's how we've gotten to 100. So we'll get to consistency in a bit, but let's just think about this, just for the fun question.
Yeah,
What's the biggest achievement you've ever had in your personal life?
personal life. So I'm gonna give one answer, and it's gonna be my stall answer and my cop out answer, and then you're gonna answer, and then I'll give my other answer.
Hmm.
So
Okay, got
my cop out answer my is that I convinced my wife to marry me. Like that like
it.
that's my greatest achievement that I convinced someone like Stacy, my wife, to be like, "You want to spend the rest of your life with me? Cool, thanks." I think that was a pretty good accomplishment in my life.
Great, yeah.
And that she stayed with me through it all. So,
Talking about
so give me a
consistency.
chance to think about this now for a non like. I feel like that's too easy of a cop out answer. So give me a chance to think about this. Do you have something?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think about I would add the word proudest accomplishment. The
Okay.
accomplishment that I was most proud of was my seminary graduation. You know, to get through all that schooling, by that point I was 27. So for 21 years of my life, I'd been in school,
Mm,
learning something. And it was the end of all schooling for me. Now, I keep learning. It's just formal school ended at that point. And I still remember the moment where for the Lutheran Church, you get a master's degree through seminary, and so you get a master's hood. And so you go forward, and they put a hood over, that's an academic hood over you, and it was I felt amazing. I mean, to be able to have that accomplishment and to do all that work and to have that and share that with other classmates. And that was great. It was fantastic.
that's a good one. That's a good one. And I think this is tough for me. Like it's because there's moments where I'm like, this is great, but like my proudest moment, and those are like that's a tough thing to think about sometimes. And I'm like the worst at this, and maybe we'll even get into this, but like I'm really bad at like hyping myself up as like of like, oh yeah, like this is a really cool moment of mine. Um, which is funny because people are like, really? You have an issue? You have a struggle with that? I'm like, it's all a facade. Yes, I
But
do.
you didn't have any athletic accomplishments over your as a young man that you're proud of?
Uh,
Sure you did.
yeah, but like I was never like the best at anything. Like so, it was like I was like average, and so yeah, I guess for me, like probably one of the would have been one of my wrestling matches when I was in high school, where I was clearly supposed to lose. Guy was like returning state like placer and things, and like it was I I was not a great wrestler. Like people might think that like and as farther as you get away from like your time in high school, like the greater you are. But I still remember I wasn't great, but I learned, and that's how I was able to use the coach. But I wrestled a guy that I caught him in a move and stuck him. And if we would have wrestled 9 times out of 10, he would have destroyed me 9 times out of 10. But I caught
Yeah.
him in that one move one time, and it was one of those cool moments as a kid because like I think like even one of my best friends was like, hey man, like you pin this guy, I'll give you $100. I was like, okay. And, and so like like everyone knew like I should not win this match. And so like it was a pretty cool moment then because it was at our home arena in high school. And so like that was one of those moments where like that's cool. Like, cause
Yeah.
like it was, I wasn't a better wrestler. But I caught it and I was better in the moment at that particular time. And
And
it was
that's all
cool.
that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. In that moment, it's a moment.
Yeah.
So good. That's really good. But that moment, like we were talking about, consistency. You just kept going to practice, you kept showing up, you kept doing the work, and it's not about being the best, it's about just doing all the hard work, you
Yep.
know, and that pays off in those moments. Whether it be on the wrestling mat or in academically or professionally in business or whatever world that we're in, hard work pays off after a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Consistency. What are your thoughts about consistency as you think about this and hard work and payoffs?
I mean, I think for me with consistency is something of like, it's so imperative in our lives, but in our faith journeys, right? Like we so often can You know, I have a tendency, my personality is I get wrapped up in something like if I find something, I discover something new that I like, I can be like it can become my whole identity for that time.
Yeah.
And then it kind of fizzes out or something, and then whatever the next new thing is, I'm like, oh, that's me now. Like
Yeah.
and it was very much younger, but then like as I got older, I think it was for me noticing like whatever it is, and whether it's a hobby I like or a thing I like, But I think it was through my faith of like setting some systems up in place for me to continue to have that consistency because there's going to be times where you don't feel like doing something or you're whatever it is, whether it's a hobby, whether it's a faith, whether it's a job, whether it's and if you can continue like these things that stay constant and consistent in your life and have those in place, that it almost comes up to a point like we don't you don't sit there and think like as you're sitting here listening to this podcast going, I need to breathe to live. But you don't think about breathing, right? None of us, I don't, can't, until I said, when's the last time you thought about breathing, which is now, because now you're thinking about I'm breathing. Okay. But we don't think about breathing, but it's something we have to do or we don't live. And I think it's because it's something that has been so consistent in our lives, right? It just becomes something that we're used to. And now when that consistency's gone, like if you're, you know, out of breath from running too hard, or, like you wake up in a sleep and a panic from a snore, like, and you feel like you can't, like, there's like when that consistency gets interrupted, it throws a jolt. So, like, for me, it's just finding things that are going to be consistent but helpful consistency in my life.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. The consistency can be drudgery
Yeah.
if it doesn't because it doesn't feel like there's any fruit being born, and yet sometimes for a long time there may not be fruit born, and it's just digging through and just trusting the process and working through it and keep going. I think about when I was in college, I learned how to play the guitar for the first time. And I learned some chords. I learned where to put my fingers. Learned how to strum and the rhythm of strumming a guitar and putting all that together. And then eventually adding some singing to it.
Mhm.
Um, and for a long time, and this is why I tell people is just learn how to play guitar. It's going to be awful for a while. It's just going to be bad. And your fingers are going to hurt and it's going to sound terrible. And that's just part of it. And that consistency of every day or every few days a week, just picking up the guitar for 15 minutes, just keep at it. Eventually, your fingers are going to get some calluses. You're going to get better and you're going to keep getting better as you're more consistent that you are. Because if you stop, then you're going to start over again. And so what happened was I learned those things the spring of my senior year. And then I worked for a year and I had so much free time because I was just working and I weren't studying anymore. And um, and I just would pick up my guitar while I'm watching TV or whatever. And literally every day I would play my guitar. And guess what I still do to this very day? I play my guitar. I play songs. I do all kinds of stuff. I don't do it necessarily professionally. I don't do it professionally at all, but I've done it publicly, right? And I just enjoy it. And it's a release for me. It's a creative release for me, but it's also the music of it. But it just takes time to just keep getting after it and work
Now
through
all
all
I
the
can picture is you playing guitar, and that's, just like you're one of those guys who out on the college quad, just sitting by the tree playing the guitar with no
was
shoes
not that
on.
guy. No.
That's how you got Darcy. You won her.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Nope, was not that guy. I was in my apartment, this little tiny guitar, trying to figure out, okay, is this how you play a G? Oh shoot, it doesn't sound very good. Blah blah blah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. And that's the same with faith. Like it's sometimes daily devotions, going to worship on a regular basis, being involved in various things within the life of the church, the movement of Jesus sometimes can feel just like, okay, we're just going through the motions here. There can be seasons like that, and that's okay. It's not always going to feel that way. There'll be times where you just feel like, oh, there's so much fruitfulness here. There's such joy and fantastic. That's amazing. Celebrate those moments
Mhm.
and
But
recognize there's going to be other moments.
but even that moment, like you talked about the going through your process of a guitar, like you said, it's gonna stink for a while, or when you're going through faith and you're going through these ruts where you're like,
Yeah.
I'm just showing up at church. But man, when you hit that note finally on that
Oh, yeah.
guitar and you're like, I did it, right? Or you have that moment of breakthrough, that moment of maybe clarity, man, it hits. And like you wouldn't trade anything for the world, right? Like, and so maybe it's that time, like, you're at church, you're going through whatever you're struggling with, you're going, challenges, and you're like, I'm just showing up because this is what I do. You don't feel like it. And then, man, pastor says something in the sermon. You're like, this was God speaking to me. And you're like, "Whew,
Mhm.
I needed that." I even heard that this Sunday. Someone's like, man, it felt like you were preaching to me this Sunday. And
Yeah.
I was like, that's awesome. Right. And so, like, doing those moments, like, if you, I think if we, I think sometimes if we stray away from the consistency because we don't want to do it, it just feels we're not in the mood at that time, we miss out on moments that can blossom from that.
Yeah, and I think you're right. You mentioned early on in what your reflection is like what I would call it the shiny object syndrome. Like we just get so we see something else and we go, oh,
Mhm.
that's it. And it's all it is, and I do that too. Like I
Mhm.
get succumb to that easily. But it can take me off of what I really want to do and what is really most important for me. And what's most important for me, that's the things that I become consistent in. Like music is important to me. Creativity is important for me. My faith is important for me. And really, I think for when we identify what's at our core, what's most important for us, that consistency becomes easier because we know if I don't do this, I lose. It's like as if I'm losing part of who I am,
Yeah.
right? And but if I can grow in these areas, man, I become more of who God made me to be. And that's a beautiful thing. And I'd rather go down those roads of being consistent in my core interests and my core values, and it'll pay off in the end over and over and
It
over.
it's finding your why in life, or
Yeah.
finding your why of why you do certain things. And it doesn't have to be necessarily a deep thing, right? Like if you watch online, like I have books on comic books behind me, right? Like it's not it's not anything that's like deeply spiritual, but like my why is like it brings me happiness. It reminds me of my childhood, my youth, like, and it brings me that childhood joy. And I'm like, that's the one of the why. It doesn't have to be like this deep, monumental, like it's a life-changing why. It just is like it reminds me of how I felt as a kid, which was pure joy, just embracing and taking up stories. And I think figuring out what the why is for why you do what you do, whether it's, why do we do this podcast? Well, I think our whys could be the same. It could be different of whether it's we like to just have the dialogue, you and I, of these times of conversations, and learning and growing together in our faith when we wrestle with these tough subjects, or, hopefully maybe the idea that maybe someone picks up one thing that one of us says at some point and they take it away and it's impactful for them. Like, who knows? But like, I think it's figuring out your why, because if you know what your why is, when you don't feel like doing something, you have that to fall back on, right? Like you like, well, why am I doing this? I don't feel like, well, this is why I'm doing. Okay, I think it can make you that consistency then pop up a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm reminded of what Tom Hanks said about acting. Tom Hanks, who's got a long career, spans probably 4 decades, over 4 decades of acting. And I'm paraphrasing what he said was they asked him like how to get where he is in mid 2020s. He said he basically just keeps showing up. It's his job. Like he just gotta be on time, do the work, and treat it as a job. And I thought, that's right. It's not just a passing interest.
Right.
It's not just he just loves to act, and he probably does love to act. But at the end of the day, that's his job, and he's a professional. And any professional would say the same thing about their job, whether it be accounting, a doctor, a teacher in a school. You just got to keep showing up, and that consistency pays off. Yeah. Hmm. Well, we're grateful to be able to be part of this conversation with you, Greg, certainly, but all the people that listen. We're grateful to be in this, and so we're looking forward to next 100 episodes. See where we.
What?
Yeah, let's go. At least 100, Greg.
Okay. All right. Lock in. Lock in.
Yeah. Excuse me. So, thanks for listening, and we'll talk again.